Welcome back to another Monster Hunter tutorial. Today we are going to be talking about the Heavy Guarding Lance. This is going to be a very interesting weapon. Personally, I have actually never used this weapon in this game. If you go ahead and look at my guild card on my Xbox, you will see that I actually have 0 uses on the lance, and I have played for over 1,000 hours on that account. So let's go ahead and pretend I'm an expert and know what I'm talking about and jump right into the video. So to start off, you'll notice we actually have a pretty big shield. So the shield is actually going to be the heaviest guarding shield in the game. That means it takes the least amount of stamina and damage and knocks you back the least amount. This is also true for the gun lance, which is the next video that I will be posting. So let's start off with the Y attacks. As you can see, this is just going to be poking the monster. So as you can see, the third attack hits a lot more, and this is all that's going to be happening. So with all of these basic attacks, it's going to be in patterns of 3. It doesn't matter if it's YBY, YBB, BYY, or etc. But the Y attack is just going to be a flat, straightforward poke. You'll notice that if you hit B, this is going to be a higher jab. So again, we can go in any way we want with this, Y, B, B, and you'll notice that as I'm doing this, I'm evading every time that I hit the third attack. This is because it has to reset, and the fastest way to do that is just to evade. So 1, 2, 3, see how long it takes before I can attack, as opposed to backstepping and going again. So while this does take stamina, it is not a significant amount, and it does help you reset a little bit better. You will also notice that the high thrusts do more attack. The final attack looks to be about the same. It is 117, which is the same that I'm hitting here. So if you start an attack with BB, as you can see, I hit a 96 and a 68. The 96 was my crit because I actually have 55% affinity. So I do have a chance to not hit crits. That's where those lower 68s are going to come from. But I'll hit 96 and then a 117. It doesn't matter if the final attack is a Y or B. It'll do the same amount of damage. But the first 2 attacks being a B will boost your damage. So let's talk about our YB attack. This is going to be a wide sweep. From the wide sweep, that'll count as 1 attack. And you can then move into thrust 2 and 3. It doesn't matter if it's B or Y, or both of them. Now let's go ahead and talk about our power guarding and counter guards. So this is going to be particularly helpful for staying on the monster, keeping pressure on it, and being able to take attacks while staying in the same spot. So if you hold down guard, we are now guarding. We can spin around in a circle. We can jab. It doesn't really do anything at all. But we also have the option to guard dash. This is going to be forward and Y, and you can then shield attack with another Y. On the alternative, we can guard dash and hit B for a leaping thrust. This is going to be an attack that hits 3 times. Not a whole bunch of damage, but the shield attack does 61. So let's talk about those counter thrusts. So if you hold down guard and now you hit B, you're going to enter a counter thrust. That is going to make it so that if you take damage, you are going to immediately be thrown into a counter thrust attack. So this does do a decent amount of damage, as opposed to the high thrust of 96 or 117. And on the alternative, you can actually counter thrust and then hit A to power guard. This again is going to make you withstand an attack and just stay in the same spot. From there, we can go to our leaping thrust, as you just saw, or we can counter thrust. As you can see, it is burning through our stamina when we enter a power guard. You'll notice that there's actually 1 and 2 levels of it. It is worth noting that Power Guard 1 is going to be 174 for counter thrust, and Power Guard 2 is also going to be 174. So entering the second level of Power Guard is not actually going to increase your damage. You'll notice that if you do not hold down trigger, it will not actually counter thrust. It will just cancel it. Cancel thrusting is good for blocking immediate attacks and jumping right back into it, but that is something you have to time perfectly. And this counter thrust is going to be if you're waiting for an attack. So again, to build this attack, you need to be holding down right trigger or whatever your guard button is. So make sure that you are going through, you're stabbing, and you're using power guards when you can. So again, we have wide sweep, we have our thrust, we have counter and power guards, and then we have our attacks from those guards. Alternatively, there's actually one more attack that we can do. This is an attack that can be activated through guard, or it can be activated through our power guard. I do not recommend using power guard to start this attack, since this attack is going to use stamina, and our power guard is going to absolutely burn through our stamina. So let's go ahead and look at the dash attack. So when we're guarding, and again, you can activate this from power guarding, but we're going to just block and then hit YB. This is going to be an attack that we're not inputting anything, otherwise it'll mess up the attack, but it's going to stab things as we move forward. And eventually, if we run into something, it'll stop us, but for now, we're just going to keep going until our stamina runs out. As you can see, there's different animations for climbing, jumping, and sliding. And you'll notice that there's a few different ways to stop this. We can either do a finish thrust, or we can go up and actually guard to stop immediately and block. So as you can see, it does not stop me when I walk through the monster, and you can do a few different attacks out of the air as well if you jump off one of those. But you can also do a guard shot, so that'll just stop you and it will pull out your claw. So this next thing I'm going to talk about really quick only goes for counter guarding. This does not go for power guarding, so that is going to be our trigger B. We can actually counter with our claw. So if we get hit with that, we are going to attach to the monster. So as you can see, if we wait with our claw, we actually have to make contact with the monster. So if there's nothing to grapple, then it won't work. So for instance, if we get shot with a fireball, this is not going to work. It will block the attack, but we will not grapple to it. So let's talk about the evading really quick. Naturally, this is going to go for lance, gun lance, and bow. You'll notice that the evade is also a little bit different. This is going to be a backstep. You'll notice that you can evade forward 3 times before a small delay, but this does not happen when you are evading backwards. It is also worth noting that after any input, whether it's an attack or a different direction for evading, you can actually move left and right. The last thing we need to cover for evading is when we evade backwards. You'll notice I jump around to the edge of the rock, but you'll notice here if I input an attack and then hold backwards while I evade, it will actually throw me a lot further. So again, holding no input is always going to be a backstep. And then if you hold backwards, it is going to actually throw you a lot further. So as you can see, we are also using a heavy weapon. So you notice there's something different about the grappling system for the lance. This is going to make it so that here you can shoot Slinger, but the other thing you need to know about is that if you hit B and grapple like normal, it'll turn into a counter claw. So instead we have to hold down our aim button, hit right stick, and now we can grapple wherever we want. And again, this is going to tenderize. This is a heavy weapon. We are not going to get slinger ammo from this. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the skills for this weapon. Let's talk about our guard skills. So offensive guard is going to be the first guard skill that we're going to look at. So this is going to make it so when you guard an attack, it's actually going to increase the attack by 15%. That is an incredible amount of attack. Most attack increases are only by around 25 at their highest level, so increasing it by 15% is going to be absolutely crazy. So for instance, if we are using a weapon with 1000 attack, 15% of that is going to be 150 bonus attack as opposed to a normal 25. Offensive guard does not last very long, but it is very good for counterattacks. Constitution is not necessarily something I would recommend for Lance specifically because there's a lot of other things you could slot with it, but since it is a weapon that is guarding a lot, this is going to reduce the amount of stamina taken through guarding. So let's go ahead and talk about the guard skill itself. This is going to massively decrease the impact of attacks and reduce the stamina depletion by 50%. This is going to be crazy for weapons that can guard. It's going to be anything that can guard, not just lances, gun lances, and so forth, but even a great sword and bowguns with a shield on them. So this is going to be a very helpful skill. I highly recommend using this on your lance, gun lance, or even charge blade sets. Now let's go ahead and talk about guard up. So guard up is going to be a special skill. This is going to be a 1 point that where some attacks that are not blockable are now going to become blockable. This is going to be just a few attacks, but it is going to be some things that you would get hit with and you think, oh, that's stupid, I should be able to block that. And this skill is going to make it so that you can block those attacks. Let's go ahead and talk about the guard up. This is going to actually be Urigen's ambition. This is going to be the, I believe, 2-piece set bonus, and is going to be that skill that makes unblockable attacks now blockable. Obviously, with the set will come that skill and level 5 guard. Let's go ahead and look at some gameplay.